are inside of Mercedes-Benz EQC. This is my first time. As you know, unfortunately I missed the trip to their launch in Europe and Sweden. But this is my first time, and this is pretty much a production car. This is not a prototype or a concept car. This is going in production this year. I'm obviously going to start with Europe, and it's going to come to the United States in 2020. We don't know the price yet. We can probably guess what it's going to be. But the range is over 200 miles. Also, still EPA rating is going to come at some point. But just kind of a first impression. The one thing that I'm right away can tell you is extremely quiet. So I know when I talked to the Mercedes team, they said this is something that they put a lot of effort into, making sure that the car is extremely quiet and a lot of isolation when around the motors, which I do appreciate. You know, I know the electric cars are quiet already, but don't forget there's still wind and other outside noise that you can hear even when the car is electric and the motors are quiet. So I love that. Even when we're accelerating, I can't hear anything. Secondly, the instrumental the panel, right? I like the continuous one-piece flat screen here. The resolution is extremely sharp. The UI is pretty good. I mean, this is something that you see in their latest Mercedes cars. And you know, the German cars used to really annoy me with all the crazy buttons around everywhere, and this feels like it actually has enough buttons that are manual buttons that you need. With everything else you can do obviously with voice and a touch screen. The ride is extremely smooth. I mean, we've already went through a few bumps, and you might have noticed as a camera shook, but as I'm riding in here, I really didn't. The other thing that Mercedes is really proud of is well, it is a Mercedes, right? You know, we saw the concept a while back, and it looked kind of really futuristic, and there was a lot of neon lights and stuff like that. They've merged it with their real authentic Mercedes-Benz look, and I like what came out of it, right? You remember there were a lot of neon lights in here. I don't know if you have seen a video from Dan of what's inside when he rode in the very first prototype. It looked really cool, but obviously driving it every day would get a little annoying. They do have a little bit of neon accents all over the place, which can also be turned off if you really don't like it. But I would leave it on, actually. That makes me feel like I'm in a very I keep coming back to, as you guys know, I'm a Tesla driver. But what once again I'm coming back to is luxury and a good build inside of the car, something that a lot of us Tesla drivers have missed over the last few years. We haven't taken too many turns just yet. I'm going to see how it does with the turns, but obviously battery being on a bottom like any electric car definitely makes it much more stable and pretty much impossible to overturn. This is an SUV. This does have some cargo space on the back. A great family car, obviously, and it is one of the most sold types of cars in the United States. So this will be in demand. Mercedes has not obviously told us if how many reservations they've had, but I definitely see a lot of people looking at this car and giving it a real look, especially in Europe. But once they start to advertise and promote this car in the United States, I can see the demand going up. Obviously, they will be coming into the market with some already existing competitors. I mean, we can count Model X as one of them, of course, the e-tron and the I-Pace. But I have a feeling that the hardcore, or at least a loyal Mercedes-Benz base, will strongly consider this car. And let's not forget, this is not the first all-electric car from Mercedes. The B-Class was the first one, at least that's what it was called here in the United States. Well, I'm trying to grasp for air because we just accelerated like crazy, and I made a pretty steep turn. So the power and torque is obviously there, and this is, you know, just on behalf of the entire electric car movement, you can definitely say that electric cars are just better because of the electric motors, because of how quiet they are, because of the technology. This car will also have over-the-air updates. The Mercedes is going to be a little bit more conservative than, let's say, Tesla was, right? Because there are some security concerns that they actually take it seriously, but it will have enough flexibility to have a pretty good over-the-air updates where your car will get better with time, and a lot of times it will, basically spare you the trip to the dealership or a service center. So yeah, that, I mean, at one point, hopefully I'll get to drive this car at some point, and then I'm gonna definitely make a different video about that. But this is my first impression as we're driving through the streets of Las Vegas. This is during CES. Of course, let me remind you guys that this show and this video is sponsored by Avanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. There's a discount code in the description of this video, so go ahead and grab it so you can save yourself a few bucks. If you're driving a Tesla, I'm sure Avanex will think twice, maybe make other accessories for Mercedes and other electric cars that are coming up. Now let's talk about what the future of Mercedes is, right? This is their first all-electric car, and this is obviously because it's over 200-mile range. You can see that the brand is taking it seriously. As I always say, follow the money. Mercedes has invested a significant amount of money into research and development, and in a factory, and in many other ways in their electric fusion. Now, this car is still going to be made on kind of a shared production lines with one of their other SUVs that they're producing that are all gas, and this is basically kind of almost, I would say, growing pains, and this is just kind of your transition as a legacy manufacturer. But in the future, the investments have already been made for their factory and manufacturing investments, and that's how we know that they are going to take it more seriously. That this is the future, not only of Mercedes-Benz, but all electric cars. The laws and regulations and incentives and all of that is definitely going to contribute to that. Mercedes is nowhere near close to the $7,500 credit here in the United States phase out. That's something that Tesla just crossed. Chevy is crossing it in the next few months. So this car will have a full $7,500 incentives. As we know, now that we have a split Congress here in the United States, we don't expect that to go away anytime soon. This law worked for everybody, and obviously there are some misunderstandings where the $7,500 are coming from, but nevertheless it's going to stay. It's going to be applied to this car once it comes here in 2020. I suggest you either reserve this car if you're interested, or at least get their own newsletter to kind of get updated on where it's at. At some point their dealerships will have some demo cars that you can check out and test drive, as we see with other manufacturers doing it the same with their dealerships. So yeah, now I'm curious to know, what do you guys think about this one, right? I mean, we kind of know what other manufacturers have been putting out there. We have a few startups, of course, like Byton. They're also here at CES. What do you guys think about how this particular car fits in, one, in the electric car community, two, as far as a German manufacturer, right? I mean, they do want to continue being a premium manufacturer and produce well-built cars, well-built luxury cars. And tell me how it just fits in maybe with your plans of buying the next electric car. What will make you actually consider this one over the other choices that you might have at that particular time? Looking forward towards your comments. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.